What if the real reason you're always tired isn't your job, your age, or your schedule, but someone in your life? You show up for everyone, but when it's your turn, the silence is deafening. Ever wondered why that is? Sometimes it's not life that's heavy. It's the people you're carrying, and it may be time to put them down. As we grow older, one of the most powerful acts of self-care we can embrace is learning to protect our energy. Not just because time is precious, but because with every passing year, our emotional bandwidth becomes even more valuable. We don't have time to waste. Not on people, not on patterns, not on anything that quietly chips away at our peace. You see, some of the most exhausting parts of our lives don't come from events or obligations. They come from people. Certain people. The kind who slowly, consistently drain you, not always with malice, but often with disregard. We all know someone like this. Someone whose name lighting up your phone already feels heavy. Someone who constantly offloads their problems onto you, always looking for reassurance, support, advice, but rarely, if ever, showing up when you need a shoulder. They're the ones who take and take, yet somehow never have anything to give in return. At first, it might feel good to help. Maybe it even gives you a sense of purpose, being the listener, the caretaker, the steady one. But slowly, something begins to shift. These one-sided dynamics wear you down, not all at once but gradually, like a small leak that never gets patched. One day you look up and realize you're exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually. You start to feel like your needs are background noise in your own life, that your worth is tied to how much you can fix for someone else. And suddenly, your own desires, your joy, your clarity, they all start fading beneath the weight of someone else's chaos. It's like trying to pour water into a cup that's cracked at the bottom. No matter how much love, time, or empathy you give it, never fills them up. And worse, it slowly empties you. Now let's be clear, helping others is a beautiful thing. Compassion is a strength, but only when it flows both ways. In healthy relationships, there is mutual care, mutual effort, mutual presence. That's the difference between support and self-sacrifice. The energy drainers, they don't meet you halfway. They show up with empty cups over and over, but never think to refill yours. They reach out when they need something, but when it's your turn to ask, they vanish, make excuses, or act indifferent. It's a one-way street, and you've been walking it alone. You might ask yourself, why do I keep letting this person in? The answer often lies in guilt. Many of us are raised to believe that being good means always giving even if it costs us everything. That saying no is selfish, that boundaries are cruel. But here's the truth. You can't pour from an empty cup. It's not selfish to protect your energy. It's not cruel to be discerning with your time. It's necessary. Because the more you give without receiving, the more you begin to feel isolated, burnt out, even resentful. And as you get older, the stakes get higher. Time becomes sacred. Peace becomes priceless. And the people you allow into your inner circle, they need to earn that space. You only get so many hours in a day, so many seasons in a lifetime. And when you've already lived through enough, you start to realize you simply can't afford to spend those moments on people who offer nothing in return. Not kindness, not support, not even basic emotional presence. If someone in your life is constantly draining you, leaving you more depleted than restored, it's not just okay to reassess that relationship. It's wise. It's an act of self-preservation. Protecting your energy doesn't mean becoming cold or unfeeling. It doesn't mean cutting people out of your life without compassion. It means practicing self-preservation. It's about honoring the simple truth that you deserve to be surrounded by people who uplift you, people who encourage your growth, who listen with care, who see your light and never try to dim it. You deserve relationships that nurture your spirit, not ones that slowly wear it down. And sometimes one of the most loving things you can do for both yourself and the other person is to take a step back, to allow them the space to confront their own challenges, to find their own strength, just as you've had to do in your own life. Is that easy? No. Let's be honest, it rarely is. Letting go of people who drain you emotionally can feel deeply uncomfortable, painful even. You may worry about how they'll react, if you'll hurt their feelings, or if conflict will arise. And if you've always been the one who shows up, it can feel foreign to suddenly prioritize your own peace. But here's the hard truth. Keeping those relationships alive often causes more harm than good for both of you. When you stop giving all your energy to someone who never refills your emotional tank, you open space for something better. You gain clarity. You gain peace. You rediscover the strength to pour into relationships that actually pour back into you. And slowly, something beautiful starts to happen. You feel lighter, more grounded, more in tune with your needs, your joy, your dreams. You remember what it feels like to show up for yourself. And that's when you realize your energy is a gift. And not everyone deserves unlimited access to it. It's not about denying reality, we all need to face the truth. But there's a difference between healthy caution and constant negativity. A grounded, wise friend will help you think things through. They'll point out risks, but they'll also help you navigate them. They won't kill your dreams before you've even taken the first step. Negative people don't offer solutions. They just pile on, fear sprinkle in doubt, and then sit back like they've done you a favor. And if you're not careful, their attitude becomes infectious. Not because you believe them, but because being around that energy wears you down. You begin to internalize their lens. You catch yourself second-guessing your own instincts. What once felt exciting now feels foolish. What once felt possible now seems naive. That voice of doubt. It begins to echo in your head long after they've stopped speaking. And suddenly, your dreams don't just have obstacles in the real world. They have obstacles in your mind. That's why as we age, we begin to treasure our emotional space. We become more mindful of how we feel after conversations, how we shrink or expand around certain people. Because we've learned sometimes the company we keep can either propel us forward or quietly hold us back. You may worry that distancing yourself from these people will leave you feeling isolated. But the truth is, you'll feel more connected to yourself, more aligned, more present. Because the relationships that truly matter are the ones that uplift. You celebrate your growth and remind you of your strength, not just your limits. Let yourself be surrounded by those who light up when you succeed. Those who share in your excitement, no matter how big or small. Those who remind you that joy is not a weakness, and that dreaming is not naive. Because yes, the naysayers will always exist. But you get to choose who sits at your table. You get to decide whose voice gets a front row seat in your mind. And if someone's always planting seeds of doubt, it's time to stop letting them garden in your soul. And as you begin clearing space from negativity, you'll notice something else just as important: respect. Or rather, the lack of it from certain people. Not just the negative ones, but the ones who dismiss you, diminish you, and make you question your worth. We often feel like we have to endure disrespect because the person is family, because we've known them forever, because they were there during important chapters of our lives. There's a history, there are memories, and sometimes we mistake that shared past as a reason to tolerate mistreatment in the present. But let's pause and ask ourselves a hard question. Is this the kind of treatment we truly deserve? Because disrespect, when repeated, isn't just about the other person anymore. It becomes a reflection of what we're willing to accept. It's not just about how they treat us. It's about how we've allowed ourselves to be treated. Here's the truth. You have the right to choose who stays in your life. And that choice should always be rooted in one powerful truth: self-respect. Respect isn't a one-way street. It's a mutual agreement. It's not just about standing up and raising your voice when someone crosses a line. It's also about building and enforcing boundaries, so those lines aren't crossed in the first place. When someone repeatedly disregards your feelings, dismisses your achievements, or talks down to you with contempt, you don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to earn their respect by proving your worth. You simply need to recognize your value and protect it. That might mean taking a step back. That might mean creating distance from someone you once held close. And in some cases, it might mean letting go completely. Not from a place of anger, but from a place of peace. Because protecting your emotional health is not selfish, it's wise. As we grow older, our priorities shift. We become more sensitive to how things make us feel. And we begin to see clearly our peace is priceless. No relationship, no matter how long it's lasted, should cost us our sense of self. We've outgrown the need to prove our worth to those unwilling to see it. And yet, setting these boundaries can be hard, especially when the disrespect comes from someone we love. A parent, a sibling, a partner, a friend we've had since childhood. The fear of conflict, of guilt, of being misunderstood, those fears are real. But the harm of staying in a relationship where your worth is constantly questioned, that harm is real too. And it lasts. Because disrespect leaves marks, not always visible but deeply felt. It can erode your confidence, your voice, even your identity. It makes you question your instincts. And over time, it makes you smaller than you're meant to be. That's why one of the most powerful acts of love you can give yourself is the courage to walk away from disrespect. To say, "I deserve better," and mean it. To stop trying to fix what has only broken you, and to open your heart to relationships that reflect your light, not your flaws. You don't need to justify that decision to anyone. You don't need permission to protect your peace. The moment you stop tolerating disrespect, you start making room for people who truly see you. People who show up, not just when it's convenient, but consistently. With kindness, with compassion, with real respect. Because at the core of every strong, nourishing relationship is that sacred thread, mutual respect. It's what allows us to grow, to feel safe, to be seen and supported for who we are, not who someone wants us to be. And if someone can't offer you that, if they continue to belittle, dismiss, or invalidate you, then the most loving thing you can do is let them go. You are not here to shrink for anyone. You are not here to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it. Your time, your energy, your heart, they're too precious to waste on those who tear you down. Some people, often without even realizing it, begin to depend on you in ways that slowly grow heavier with time. At first, it's subtle, an occasional phone call to talk through a worry, or a small request for help with something they could probably handle on their own. But soon, that dependency begins to grow. Suddenly, you're their emotional anchor, the one they run to for every minor panic or fleeting frustration. They no longer try to navigate their own emotional waves. Instead, they seek shelter in your stability, expecting you to steady them every time the tide rises. And it's not just emotional reliance. Sometimes it's financial. Maybe they start asking to borrow money, just this once, but it never ends there. They come back again and again, never really showing signs of wanting to fix the core of their situation. There's no plan, no initiative, only excuses, and a growing reliance on your support. What starts out as an act of kindness on your part, a desire to be there for someone in need, soon morphs into something heavier, something draining. You go from helping out of compassion to helping out of obligation. It's a subtle shift, but you feel it. It's that gnawing feeling in your gut that whispers, "You're giving too much and getting nothing in return." You begin to notice how much of your energy is being poured into this one-sided relationship. You try to offer advice, encouragement tools, to help them stand on their own, but they don't take it. They nod, they thank you, and then they come back with the same problems. Again and again. Like being caught in a cycle you never agreed to join. You're doing all the pedaling, and they're just coasting along for the ride. It feels like carrying someone else's backpack while climbing a mountain with your own already strapped to your shoulders. You keep climbing slower and heavier while they rely on your strength to keep moving. But what about your journey? What about your climb? Soon, your dreams start to gather dust. Your goals fade into the background as their needs dominate your time. You stop investing in yourself, not because you don't care about your own life, but because you're too consumed by theirs. And deep down, you realize something unsettling: they're not even trying to change. They've grown comfortable in their dependence content, to stay still as long as you're willing to keep pushing them forward. And that's when the resentment creeps in. Not because you don't want to help, not because you're heartless, but because you're exhausted emotionally, mentally, maybe even financially. And despite all you've given, you feel increasingly invisible in the relationship. It's no longer about mutual care. It's about survival yours. You find yourself wondering, why am I giving so much while receiving so little? It's a question that sits heavy on your heart. Because it's not just about generosity anymore. It's about imbalance. It's about watching your peace of mind slip away for someone who refuses to take responsibility for their own life. And that's the hard truth. We think we're helping, but really we might be enabling. By stepping in constantly, we're giving them permission to stay stuck. We're removing the urgency for them to change, to grow, to take control. And in doing so, we hold them back, even as we wear ourselves down. Helping becomes hurting, not just for them, but for you too. As we grow older, we begin to understand that time and energy are precious currencies. We can't spend them recklessly. We learn often the hard way that protecting our emotional resources isn't selfish, it's wise. It's self-preservation. It's an act of self-love. And perhaps it's also an act of true love for the other person. Because enabling someone to remain dependent might feel like care, but it's actually a cage. We think we're saving them, but we're really keeping them from discovering their own strength, their own potential. When we step back, when we let go, we give them the space to rise, to struggle, and ultimately to grow. You might still ask yourself, but if I stop helping, who will? The answer, though difficult, is liberating. Maybe no one will. And maybe that's exactly what they need. Sometimes hitting bottom is the only way people learn how to build a ladder out. You're not abandoning them. You're finally giving them a chance to take ownership of their lives, to stand up, to face the storm without your umbrella. Because real support doesn't mean doing the work for them. It means believing that they are capable of doing it themselves. And that belief can be more empowering than any temporary fix. As we move forward, we'll explore what it means to reclaim your emotional freedom, how to set boundaries without guilt, how to protect your energy without shame, and most importantly, how to rebuild your life with clarity and intention. Letting go isn't always about giving up on someone. It's often about giving them the space to grow. When you step back from someone who's overly dependent, you're not abandoning them. You're giving them something far more valuable: the opportunity to rise to the occasion. You're offering them the chance to step into their own power, to take ownership of their lives, and to confront their challenges head-on. At first, it may be uncomfortable for both of you. Change usually is. But discomfort can be a powerful catalyst for growth. Think of it like a seed. Breaking through the soil, it's a painful, messy process, but necessary for something beautiful to emerge. By stepping back, you're encouraging them to become stronger, more capable, and more self-reliant. You're giving them the opportunity to discover the confidence that comes from facing life on their own terms. It's important to understand that letting go of someone's unhealthy dependence doesn't mean you stop caring about them. Not at all. In fact, it means you care enough to stop feeding a pattern that's ultimately destructive. You're not turning your back on them, you're turning them back toward themselves. And that shift, it can be life-changing. Setting boundaries isn't an act of rejection. It's an act of preservation of your time, your energy, and your mental well-being. When you start protecting your emotional reserves, you free up space for the relationships that matter, the ones that fill you up instead of drain you dry. You make room for connections built on mutual respect, not obligation. You begin to invest in relationships that nurture you, that inspire you, that help you grow, not ones that keep you stuck in cycles of rescue and repair. And here's the thing, you can still care from a distance. You can still be there in a limited, healthy way. Offering support doesn't have to mean offering yourself on a silver platter. You can be a lighthouse, steadfast, shining your light when needed without jumping into every storm they find themselves in. You don't need to be their emotional lifeline or their financial fallback. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step aside and let someone learn how to swim. Because you deserve better too. You deserve relationships that are balanced, where there is reciprocity, where both people give and take support and uplift, lean and stand. Relationships where effort is mutual and respect is a given. As we grow older and hopefully wiser, it becomes more and more clear that peace of mind is not something you can outsource. Your happiness, your emotional health, your future, they are your responsibility and yours alone. And that means surrounding yourself with people who get that. People who respect your time, your limits, your boundaries. People who don't just take from you but bring something meaningful into your life as well. When you release the weight of unhealthy attachments, you create space for authentic connection, for joy, for peace. So no letting go of someone who leans on you too heavily is not cruel. It's not cold. It's not heartless. It's courageous. It's compassionate. It's a radical act of love not just for yourself, but for them as well. You're no longer enabling a pattern that keeps you both stuck. You're choosing healing, growth, freedom. It's not always easy. You may wrestle with guilt, wonder if you've done the right thing, but over time, you'll start to see the difference. You'll feel lighter, more centered. You'll find yourself reconnecting with your own goals, your own passions, your own peace. And maybe the person you let go will start their own journey too, finally forced to build a foundation they can stand on. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about one relationship. It's about a way of living, a commitment to emotional clarity, to self-respect, to boundaries that protect your heart and honor your soul. But not everyone will make that easy. In fact, some people will fight tooth and nail to keep you in their web. They're not just dependent, they're manipulative, calculated, selfish. These are the individuals who take your kindness and twist it for their own gain. They know exactly what to say to keep you hooked. They smile with sweet words while pushing your limits. They demand your trust, then betray it. They play the victim to avoid accountability, guilt-tripping you into doing more, giving more, sacrificing more. They are the emotional con artists of life. And while they may not carry weapons or wear masks, they are just as dangerous to your heart, your peace of mind, and sometimes even your sense of self. They feed off your empathy, your compassion, your desire to see the good in people. They turn those beautiful parts of you into tools for manipulation. They make you question your instincts, blur your boundaries, and slowly erode your sense of what's fair, what's healthy, what's normal. They take advantage of the very things that make you human. And if you're not careful, they'll drain you dry before you even realize what's happening. So how do you protect yourself from them? What signs should you look for? How can you reclaim your power and rebuild your emotional fortress? When you begin to protect your peace and set healthy boundaries, you naturally start to see who respects your limits and who manipulates them. Among the most draining presences in our lives are the selfish manipulators. These individuals are rarely obvious in their tactics. They don't always shout demand or threaten. Instead, they operate quietly, strategically, weaving emotional traps so subtly that by the time you realize what's happening, you're already tangled in their web. They twist situations in their favor, leaving you confused, emotionally depleted, and somehow always in the wrong. At first glance, these people often seem like the ones who care. They're charming, attentive, maybe even warm. They wear a mask of kindness that's convincing, at least in the beginning, but underneath that mask lies something else entirely, a deep, calculated intention to use your empathy against you. They know exactly how to gain your trust, how to push the right buttons, and how to turn your generosity into their own advantage. Over time, their presence begins to chip away at you. A selfish manipulator can take many forms. It might be the friend who always needs your help, but is never there when you're struggling. Or the colleague who always finds a way to make you feel guilty for saying no, even when your plate is already full. Or perhaps it's the partner who subtly makes you question your own feelings using emotional blackmail disguised as love. If you really cared, they say you'd do this for me. They don't always shout or demand. Sometimes it's the quiet guilt trips, the broken promises, or the way they twist your words to make you feel like the bad guy. They expect you to always keep your word, to always be there, while their loyalty and reliability vanish the moment it's inconvenient. There's no fairness, only expectations. And what makes it so exhausting is that there's never any real acknowledgement. No thank you. No awareness of how much they've taken from you. You give and give your time, your energy, your emotional support, but the moment you need something in return, they vanish. Or worse, make you feel selfish for asking. Over time, these interactions do more than drain you. They distort your perception of what's normal in a relationship. You begin to question yourself, doubt your instincts, and shrink your boundaries just to avoid conflict. You're no longer living your life, you're reacting to theirs. You find yourself bending to meet their needs while your own desires slowly fade into the background. Their manipulation isn't always explosive. Often, it's the little things, the passive-aggressive comments, the guilt-laced requests, the subtle insinuations that you're never doing enough. It wears you down day by day, leaving you emotionally off balance and deeply confused. The scariest part, you may not even realize how much they've taken until it's too late. You wake up one day and realize you've been pouring into a bottomless well. A relationship where love, support, and respect flow only one way. And no matter how much you give, it's never enough. They use your best qualities, your compassion, your patience, your loyalty, and weaponize them. You're not just being kind anymore. You're being used. So, what do? You stop the cycle. You make a choice. You reclaim your life. Recognizing a manipulator for who they are is the first and often hardest step. Because they cloak their intentions so well, it's easy to fall for the idea that they're just misunderstood or going through a hard time. But patterns don't lie. If every interaction leaves you feeling guilty, drained, or diminished, that's not care, it's control. You deserve better. You deserve to be in relationships where love and respect are mutual, where you are supported just as much as you give support, where you are seen, heard, and valued, not for what you can provide, but for who you are. Cutting ties with selfish manipulators is not cruel. It's not dramatic. It's not selfish. It's an act of courage. It's a declaration that your peace matters, that your emotional well-being is worth protecting. It's you finally saying enough. And yes, it might hurt, especially if they've been in your life for a long time. Letting go of someone you once trusted is never easy. But sometimes holding on hurts even more, Because every time you make space by removing someone toxic, you open the door to something better, healthier, more genuine. You create room for real connection, for true partnership, for friendships and love that lift you up instead of pulling you down. At the end of the day, life is too short to keep watering dead plants. You deserve relationships that bloom, that grow with you, that breathe life into your soul. So take the leap. Reclaim your voice. Reclaim your peace. Because that more than anything is the kind of life you were meant to live. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply walk away.